Right, so we are live, everyone. My name is Jesse, and I am with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. For those joining us for the first time, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. But of course, there are no classrooms right now, so we are broadcasting straight to YouTube, where you don't need to register, you don't need to sign up. You can check out over 6 to 8 videos every day that we're going to be hosting over the next few weeks and months as people are stuck at home. And you can also check out our entire archived collection of videos on our YouTube page as well. So we encourage you to do that. Today, the reason you guys are all here, of course, is for our speaker. So we are joined live in the heart of downtown Toronto in beautiful Ripley's Aquarium of Canada, which might be closed to the public, but the animal care goes on. And so we've done sessions with them over the last few weeks, and we're doing several more in the coming weeks to come. But today we are going to focus in the behind the scenes area where most people don't get to go to learn a little bit about their sea turtles and to do a sea turtle feed. And so without further ado, thank you so much for joining us. We've got Tally, an educator there at the aquarium, and she's going to be joined by aquarists taking care of their beautiful turtles. So Tally, thanks so much and take it away.
Hi guys, hi Jesse. Thank you so much. So my name is Tally. I'm one of the educators here at Ripley's Aquarium of Canada. And as you can see right in front of me, we're also joined by a very special guest. This is Spot. She's one of our 2 green sea turtles that we have here at the aquarium. So if you guys have been to the aquarium before, you might know our Dangerous Lagoon area. It's our largest exhibit by far, and it involves the big shark tunnel that you might have walked through. And you can actually kind of see that just here through that little gate. Now it's probably looking a little bit different from back here because this is actually behind the scenes. So we're giving you a little extra special look. This is called our Acclamation Pool. So this area will lead directly into our Dangerous Lagoon tank. And if you look closely, we do have it blocked off right now. So that Spot here, she stays with us for a little bit of feed and enrichment. So about an hour ago, we actually did have divers inside this whole area, and they were giving our tank a little bit of a scrub. But right now it is all for Spot. So we are also being joined by Mel. Hello, Mel. And she's going to be our aquarium biologist today, who is going to be giving Spot some lunch. Now, as you can see, Mel is ringing a little bit of a dinner bell there. That is Spot's cue that there's going to be some food coming up. And she's going to also be placing in a target. So our animals here, they're actually target trained, which gives them a little bit of enrichment while they're here at the aquarium. So down below that little piece of PVC pipe, there was a big yellow arrow. And Spot knows that if she goes up to that target, she'll be rewarded with food. The reason that we target train a lot of our animals, including some of the sharks, our turtles, and our octopus, is so that they get very comfortable with approaching our aquarius if we ever need them for a vet checkup. So it looks like on the menu today, we've got some green leaf lettuce, we've got some carrots, and some squid in there, also some cucumber, and some yam. So it's gonna be a very nice day for her. She's getting a little bit of mix of protein and veggies. Now, the interesting thing about green sea turtles is that they are omnivores, but when they're born, they eat primarily proteins such as jellyfish, squid, mollusks, and crustaceans. And as they get a little bit older, they'll switch to primarily a vegetarian diet. So that's actually how green sea turtles get their name. As you can see, they're not green, their shell is not green, and they're actually named after the color of their fat. So that vegetarian diet actually turns the fat of green sea turtles green as they get older, which is quite interesting. But here at the aquarium, we do like to give them an omnivore diet. We give them a mix of vegetation and protein just to make sure they're getting a lot of vitamins so they can grow big and strong here within our Dangerous Lagoon exhibit. So we actually have 2 green sea turtles. This is Spot. She is the largest by far. And we named her after the lightest colored spot that's on her neck. We'll have to see as she comes back. She's a little preoccupied with food right now, so she's not showing it to us. But our other is named Chewy, and she's within the Dangerous Lagoon exhibit right now, so she'll get fed a little bit later. And our 2 green sea turtles, they came to us. Do you know where they came from, Mel? Cayman, yeah. So they came actually from the Cayman Islands. They were rescued from a turtle farm, and they came to us from Dalhousie University, I believe. And we estimate they're about in their 20s, probably about mid-20s. And for a species that can live to over 80 years, we might even consider them juveniles. So they might just be reaching maturity at this point. So they're quite large, but they still have a lot of growing to do. Now, it's pretty funny because our turtles live within an exhibit of large sand tiger sharks and nurse sharks and sawfish, but it's actually our turtles who tend to rule this exhibit. It's not the sharks. I've actually seen, especially this girl here, she'll go right up to our nurse sharks and she'll go and sit directly on top of the nurse sharks when they're in the way. She's even been seen slapping some of our bigger sharks with her flippers to get them to move out of her way. So they're quite the characters. Chewy for sure has an interesting name because she's named after her tendency to chew on anything that gets in her path, which includes some of that fake coral decor that you might have actually seen within our exhibit. So they're quite funny, the pair of those two. We call them sisters, but they're not actually related. They just grew up together and they came to us together. And they definitely act like sisters. They'll chase each other around. They don't like to hang out other than that. So we definitely consider them to be sisters. It was quite funny because we were watching some of our divers within this exhibit about an hour ago. And she was kind of pestering the divers into giving her attention as they were cleaning. So Spot is definitely a bit more of a people person than Chewy. So you might have seen Mel just giving Spot a little bit of a scratch there on her back. She can definitely feel that. So that shell there is more technically called a carapace. And there are definitely nerve endings there as it does act as her spine. So sometimes Mel will give her a little scratch within her back with a little scrubby brush just to make sure there's no algae or parasites growing on there. And also just to give her a little pat on the back. She definitely enjoys that. Now, Spot is definitely more food motivated than our other turtle. So she's very good at acting or performing for a camera right now. So as you can see, and she doesn't actually have any teeth. So you might be looking at her kind of pouncing after that food, but she just has serrated jaws. She has a little ridges in her mouth and along the bridge of her mouth that will help her to really crush up anything like algae and seagrass. Now, a little bit about green sea turtles in general. So you might actually know this already, but turtles generally will return to the area that they were born in order to reproduce. So it's important to note that the beach that they were born on might not be the beach or the area of the world that they actually live on right now. So they might have to migrate thousands of kilometers in order to return to that. So scientists think that they can find this beach that they were born on using Earth's magnetic field, using navigational cues from Earth's magnetic field, or from chemical cues, usually from like the taste and the smell of the water and the air around them. And once they return to this beach, the female will crawl up into the sand. She'll dig a little nest and she can lay around 100 to 200 eggs. So typically these eggs will take about 2 to 3 months to hatch. And then this is the most dangerous time of a turtle's life. They're very small, they're very vulnerable. Often they might get eaten by things like gulls, other types of birds, some crabs, and even scavengers like foxes have been seen eating turtle eggs and hatchlings. So it's part of their natural instinct to find their way to the ocean once they've been born. And once they're there, usually that 2 to 3 year mark as they're growing is they're very vulnerable, and only 1% of hatchlings will actually make it to maturity. So Spot and Chewy, we're very fortunate to have them here at the aquarium. Very fortunate that we have them within our exhibit. Now, pretty interesting thing about turtles is, as you can see, her head is out of the water. She's approaching Mel here, definitely trying to get some food in there. She's breathing air. She's a reptile. She's not a fish. She does not have gills. And so she actually needs to come up about every 1 to 5 minutes in order to take a big breath of air. When she's sleeping, she can survive down there for a couple hours at a time as her metabolism is a bit slower as she's resting. And a pretty cute thing is that turtles, even in the wild, they will always return to a special sleeping spot. So they'll generally hide under ridges and under coral reef ledges and rocks. And here at the aquarium, I often get questions from concerned guests about Spot having her face stuck in coral by the submarine. This tends to be her sleeping spot nowadays, and she's perfectly okay. It's just where she decides to take a little snooze. I actually saw her there this morning. But if you're ever at the aquarium and you see Spot by the submarine, you'll just know that she's taking a really good nap. Chewy, she tends to hang out generally by the dark cave in the aquarium. So as you're going through the tunnel, you might have to look really closely for Chewy as she's taking a little snooze. So it's really important that we talk about green sea turtles and how they're actually endangered in the wild. They're at high risk of being extinct in the future. A really big thing is actually plastic pollution. So as you can see with our turtles, they are very food motivated creatures. They will eat anything that is in their way. And plastic is a really big problem because plastic in the water can kind of disguise itself as maybe a jellyfish or an algae. Turtles don't know how to differentiate that. And so they think that over 50% of sea turtles in the wild have actually consumed at least one piece of plastic. So if you guys want to help out, a really big thing that you guys can do is to just start using more reusable things like reusable cups and reusable bags, mugs, cutlery, saying no to a plastic straw, or just making sure that you're properly disposing of these single-use plastics in the future, because we definitely need our sea turtles as they're very important for the ecosystem. They help to control a lot of seagrass beds and coral reef ecosystems, and so they're important for the conservation of a lot of different marine species. So Jesse, should we take it away with some questions?
I think we should. We've got over 165 people tuning in live on YouTube, so we appreciate all you guys coming in today. It's one of our biggest live sessions ever, so thanks so much for tuning in. We've already got a bunch of questions, but if you've joined and haven't identified yourself in the YouTube chat bar, just let me know where you're joining from, and I'll take as many questions as we can. So let's start with Ewan and Callum, both grade 5 and grade 2, and they want to know how many different types of sea turtles there are, Callie.
So there are 7 different types of sea turtles. Green sea turtles are the second largest, with the largest being the leatherback.
Okay. I always like to highlight for kids that if you have a grade 5 classroom, so if you're in grade 5, the entire class combined, all your weight is about the weight of one leatherback turtle. That's how big they get. So it's very, very neat. We have a girl named Grace joining us again today from Illinois. Thank you so much. She's been tuning into all our sessions, so we appreciate her being here. And her question is, why do they have tails?
Why do they have tails? So this I cannot answer with certainty, but it's probably to do with a little bit of balance and stability in the water. So a lot of animals, especially sharks, they'll use their tails to kind of help themselves as they're steering to keep them stable. Really cool thing though about turtles is that you can actually tell if it's male or female based on that tail. So males will generally have a longer tail. Spot, as you can see, hers barely comes out from back behind her shell there. If she was male, she would have a much longer tail there.
Fantastic. All right. Liam and Paula want to ask the question we always get whenever we do turtles. Why don't the sharks just eat the turtles?
Well, she definitely has a very, very thick shell. I don't think any of our turtles would be able to eat through that. But also, as I mentioned, especially within this exhibit, our turtles, they're nothing to, our sharks are probably more afraid of our turtles, actually. Our turtles will go around slapping them with flippers, and our turtles will have to kind of clear the path whenever they're coming through. So we don't have any fears of our turtles getting hurt here.
It's funny. The turtles are beautiful, but they're the bullies of the tank.
Yes, for sure.
All right. Mitzi wants to know how many turtles are in one family. So you talked about this amazing, laying eggs in a beach and coming out to the sea. How many babies are in that clutch?
So a clutch, so the eggs that are laid in that nest, there can be around 100 to 200 on average. But it's important to note that the female won't actually stick around to take care of them. So generally the female will, once she lays the egg, she'll be back into the ocean, and the hatchlings will kind of have to fend for themselves. So they can be very solitary animals. But also only 1% of those eggs are ever going to survive past that 2-3 year mark. So generally just one.
All right. Noah in Sioux Lookout, Ontario. I love when we get Sioux Lookout people. You guys are great. We have a few classes from Sioux Lookout when we typically do these sessions. So Noah wants to know, how much do they eat in a day? You've been feeding this one constantly. It just doesn't stop.
So Mel, how many pounds of food would you estimate Spot gets every day? 3 pounds? So she gets about 3 pounds. I believe she gets a little bit more than her sister Chewy. But yeah, 3 pounds almost every single day.
All right. It's more than I get. All right. Zoe in Saskatchewan wants to know, does Spot have a spot? If so, where? And you're sort of pointing right at it, which is perfect.
There, right there on her neck as she swims past. So that little faded spot along her neck is what gave her her name.
Yeah, very cool. All right. McKinley wants to know, how do turtles remember where they're born? How do they find that beach to lay their eggs?
That's a really good question. So they do something called imprinting. So there's 2 different theories. Scientists think that they can follow Earth's magnetic field, electromagnetic field, and turtles actually have crystals within their brains that help them kind of detect this magnetic field. So they think that they can use that in order to go back to their native beach. But some scientists also think that it's an olfactory cue, which means that it's kind of like smell or taste that would guide them back there.
I really urge people when they finish this session, go home, check out some amazing BBC documentaries on turtles coming to land. In places like Costa Rica, you'll have a night where the moon is full and then suddenly 100,000 turtles will come out of the water and lay their eggs on the beach. Just really incredible stuff. And again, stuff that we're still learning about as scientists, which is really cool. All right. I love this question. We get this from the Young family all the time, and thanks to you guys for tuning in as well. What's your favorite part of your job, Tally?
My favorite part of my job is definitely seeing the dynamics of the animals with each other. So one of my favorite things to talk about was actually the story of Spot and Chewy and how they kind of rule that tank, and kind of educating the public on the importance of keeping these animals in the ocean and making sure that they stick around for generations to come, because a lot of these animals help control populations of a ton of other species. And so I really like to educate the public on things like that.
Yeah, well, fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing. All right, Keegan's daughters want to know how big the turtle will get. So it's already huge. How big are we talking?
So the largest green sea turtle had a shell that was about 5 feet long. Ours, I would say, is probably between 2 and 3 feet, and the average of an adult can be around 3 to 4 feet long for that shell. So she definitely still has some growing to do, even if she looks big already. But the largest green sea turtle that was ever caught in the wild was actually over 800 pounds.
Whoa, very cool. Thank you. Oh, hi, darling. Here comes Spot to say a big hello and smile at us. Hi, Spot. All right, William in Ottawa wants to know how you target trained them. How did you pull this off?
Yeah, so it's kind of similar to how you might train a dog with a dog clicker. Some people still use those Pavlovian dog clickers, or if you might reward your dog with a treat after doing a trick. So generally we'll introduce a target. So we have a few different targets over here for different animals. So you'll see this one that we had just used for our turtles. We also have Chewies over here. So over time, these animals will get used to the association between food and that target, and then they'll start to learn that if they go up and approach that target, that they'll be rewarded with food. So food is a really good factor when it comes to target training. It makes it a lot easier.
All right, fantastic, Tally. All right, we're going to take a few more questions here. So Jill wants to know, can you tell us about the pattern on their shell? Like, is there anything special about it? Is there anything particularly neat about it?
So when turtles are born, generally that pattern won't be there. It'll be mostly black. As they get older, the shells can actually become more of like a greenish or a grayish color. Some of them might have like a marbled or a spotted pattern. So it just depends on the individual. Ours have more of a marbled shell, which is quite beautiful. So it really just depends on the individual and what color that shell becomes.
Yeah, I forget where I heard this too, several years ago, but you'll notice that it has 13 of the big plates on its back. And then if you were to count, it probably has 28 of the small plates around the edge. So you can almost use it as a calendar. If there were 13 months of 28 days, it's pretty close to what we have as a full year. So I've seen that before. I forget where right now, but it's kind of neat. I don't know if there's any element to that question about that, but it's cool to check out. All right. Luke wants to know, how long can they stay underwater? This one's been underwater for quite some time now. What's the record?
So I'm not sure what the turtle record is, but generally when they're being more active, when they're swimming around and they're hunting for food, they can be underwater for about 5 minutes before they'll have to come up. When they're resting, they can actually stay underwater for several hours because their body is not using as much oxygen as they are resting. So it just depends on their activity level.
Very cool. Several hours is something that's a little wild for me, and I'm sure is wild for a lot of our people tuning in live. All right. Callum wants to know, of all the species of sea turtle, is there any that is particularly threatened or endangered?
So with sea turtles, I believe every single population that's within the United States is considered at least vulnerable. Some of them we don't have a lot of data on, including the Kemp's Ridley sea turtle, where the IUCN is not sure what their status should be. The green sea turtle is endangered. I believe one of them is critically endangered. If Jesse, if you know exactly which one, maybe.
I think the hawksbill is the rarest one, but we just did a session with the Turtle Hospital in Florida where they would have fielded that question as well. So check that out too.
Yeah, so they're all definitely threatened at some other various levels of risk. So we need to help protect them all.
Yeah, fantastic. All right. Let's see if we can take one more question or so. Raina in Alveston, Ontario wants to know if sea turtles hatch with their shell. When they come out of the egg, do they have that hard shell?
Yes, they definitely do, but it will kind of get a bit thicker. It'll get a bit stronger as they grow. And that's primarily why they have more of a carnivorous diet when they're young. They're getting more of those nutrients in order to really harden up that shell, including calcium, which they really need. So if you guys ever take calcium supplements at home, that's something that a lot of turtles definitely need to get from their diet as well to make sure that they grow a really strong shell. Definitely have one, but it's a bit softer when they're born.
Fantastic. I'm amazed we haven't got this question yet, so I have to ask it for people that might be interested at home. Can the turtle retract into its shell? Can it pull its arms and flippers and head into the shell or not?
No, she cannot. So green sea turtles, and I believe most sea turtles actually cannot retract completely. She will definitely try. Sometimes you'll see her just kind of moving her neck back into her shell, but she can't get there completely. Retracting the head into the shell is more reserved for like land turtles, such as tortoises.
Fantastic. All right. I'm going to take one more question and we'll dive into a sort of wrap-up message here. Bronwyn wants to know, do turtles lay eggs in captivity ever?
So because Spot and Chewy were not born here, and also because they're both female, that's a really big part of it. But we're not going to get any eggs here. They weren't born here, and they would have to return to the Cayman Islands where they were born in order to really want to lay those eggs. So that's why it's a really big issue with pollution or with habitat destruction. If we're converting a lot of beaches into real estate developments, then a lot of these turtles aren't going to be able to find their way back to that beach.
All right. I'm so glad we got that in. So Tally, before we wrap up here, where can we direct kids at home to learn more about turtles, more about Ripley's Aquarium of Canada? Where can we guide them to keep the learning going as they might be stuck for a little while?
Yeah, so I'm glad you asked that. So if you guys go to our website, ripleysquariums.com, there should be a little subheading. It'll be called Ripley's Aquarium at Home. And all three Ripley's Aquariums are setting up a lot of live feeds and videos and arts and crafts instructions online that you guys can check out. If you want something to do while you're at home that's educational, because animal feeding, as you mentioned, definitely goes on while we're closed. And so we have a lot of fun content that's coming out for you guys.
So I've just linked to that in the YouTube chat bar as well. So I really encourage you to check that out. Ripley's Aquariums, the three of them all have really fantastic resources. They're doing tons of great content behind the scenes and sessions with us. So if you wanted to see a shark feed or a stingray feed, tomorrow we're doing a sawfish feed. We are going behind the scenes with all sorts of amazing animals at the aquarium. So we hope you guys will tune in. Again, no registration or sign up required. I'll also pass along the link to our newsletter, which changes every day. So you can see our Ripley sessions and all our sessions and how to tune into each one. Tally, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for a behind-the-scenes tour with your beautiful turtle Spot.
No problem. Thanks, guys, for joining in. Hope to see you guys soon.
All right. Have a wonderful rest of your day, everyone. Bye for now, guys.